All right, so it is 1:45 right now, and I am just waiting to see if we have all of our members. I see Stacy, I see Jeff. Okay, so Dr. Garcia, if you could, oh, here. Dr. Garcia, if you could go ahead and please do a roll call for, just to establish that we have quorum.
Okay, roll call to establish quorum. Member Hancock.
Present.
Member Kawaguchi.
Here.
Member Moridomi.
Here.
Member Pruitt. Member Pruitt? Yeah, I see ya. You're on mute. Member Ross.
Here.
Member Sims.
Here.
Member Wong.
Here.
And Member Garcia is here. We have a full quorum.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go back to item number 7 now, and I believe we're on item number 7C.
That's correct, President Wong. We are on item 7C, AB 1707, Pacheco Health Professionals and Facilities Adverse Actions Based on Another State's Law. This bill is a bill that impacts both optometrists technically, but most principally our healing arts colleagues in other professions such as medical doctors, physicians, nurses, and folks like that. Essentially, what this bill is trying to accomplish is to prohibit CSBO, our board, and all healing arts boards under the Department of Consumer Affairs from denying an application for a license or imposing discipline solely based on a civil judgment, criminal conviction, or a disciplinary action taken in another state. This bill really does not have any direct impact to optometrists or our board. As I mentioned, this bill has really been introduced as the meeting materials demonstrate following actions happening around the country in other states as it relates to abortion rights and access. And so the reason why staff has brought forward this bill for the committee to consider and for the full board to consider is really to align ourselves with the other healing arts boards in the department who are actively engaged in on this bill and looking at it as well. Again, Planned Parenthood, I believe, is the sponsor of this bill, and they've brought forward this bill to deal with these situations happening in other states to ensure that if a licensee in California is taking an action that would be legal under our state's laws, that they're not otherwise jeopardized by an action that happened in another state. So again, no direct impact, we don't believe, to optometrists, as optometrists are not involved in providing abortion services, but really, since we are a healing arts board, wanted to align ourselves with our sister boards. Happy to take a comment from the committee on this. From the board. The committee recommendation was a support, and that was unanimous.
Do any board members have any comments? All right, then I'm going to move on to the meeting room. Are there any comments from the meeting room? No comments in the meeting room. Mr. Moderator, would you open up the Q&A for public comment?
We are now accepting public comment on the bill. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment in the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to return to the agenda?
Yes, please. All right, so I did things backwards. I needed a motion first before I took public comment, so could someone make a motion, or would anyone like to make a motion?
This is Member Ross. I'll make a motion that we support AB 1707.
Member Hancock, I'll second.
probably advisable that we open it up to public comment again.
Okay, I'm going to open up public comment in the meeting room one more time. No public comments in the meeting room. Mr. Moderator, would you open up public comment at open up the Q&A for public comment, please?
We are now accepting public comment on the motion. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. And there's still no request for public comment at the moment.
Thank you. Dr. Garcia, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure will. Member Hancock,
Aye.
Member Kawaguchi,
Aye.
Member Morodomi,
Aye.
Member Pruitt,
Aye.
Member Ross,
Aye.
Member Sims,
Aye.
Member Wong,
Aye.
and Member Garcia. I vote aye. Motion passes.
Great.
Very good. We will move on to item D, still within item 7, the legislative report. This is SB 340, Eggman, excuse me, Medi-Cal Eyeglasses Prison Industry Authority. This bill was introduced in February, and it was set for, most recent action was set for a hearing and appropriations just a few days ago. And I have some information I'll verbally deliver regarding that here in a moment. This bill is substantially similar to SB 1089, which was sponsored by the California Optometric Association last year. Our board considered that bill last year and took a support position on it. That bill, SB 1089 from last year, was ultimately gutted and amended, meaning it was changed into an entirely different topic, and that new version of the bill moved forward. So the policy that our board had weighed in on last year did not carry forward given that change, and so SB 340 has been introduced this year to bring this proposal forward again. The bill, for purposes of Medi-Cal reimbursement for covered optometric services, would authorize a provider to obtain eyeglasses from a private entity as an alternative to a purchase from the Prison Industry Authority. The current law requires, and has so for approximately the last 30 some odd years, that this benefit be under the auspices of the PIA. And so this bill would serve to change that relationship. In your packet here, which is very similar to what was included for the Leg Committee analysis, we put together some robust information regarding just the background and the history of this issue that I'd like to just kind of mention quickly here. So the benefit for eyeglasses for children is a mandatory benefit. It's not a mandatory benefit for adults. It's an optional benefit. And that adult benefit came back a couple years ago in 2020. And so we now have adults and children being covered in this state with this benefit. And as I mentioned, for 30 years, law has required that these glasses be made by incarcerated persons within our state prisons. The analysis includes some information related to news articles regarding this program and some of the challenges that may have been occurring within that program, especially during the COVID pandemic time period. In addition to that information, just some updated fiscal information as the bill was just recently heard in the Appropriations Committee. When we had this discussion at the Leg Committee, there was some robust conversation both about the wait times, the length of time it takes when you order a glasses before you get it. There was also some conversation around costs and how much the current an eyeglasses under the current program would cost versus how much eyeglasses might cost under this bill. According to the information from the Appropriations Committee from just the other day, costs are estimated to range from $6.5 million to $29.1 million to implement this bill. Most of those costs would be, some of those costs would be borne by the general fund, but not all of them. To be clear, there is no impact in this bill fiscally to our board or our fund. So these costs that I'm mentioning are impacts elsewhere. The current estimated payment rate, for PIA is $19.82 per pair of lenses. And the committee analysis estimates that the non-PIA rate would be $47.76. So appears that the committee analysis information is suggesting that this may be more expensive. So I wanted to share that information. In addition, the appropriations analysis mentions possible impacts to the state prison system and the general fund because the incarcerated individuals who are working on these orders would see a likely reduction in their work, meaning a reduction in their service credits for their term of imprisonment. So those are some additional information that's come out since we put together this material for your packet. We had a really robust conversation in the Ledge-Reg committee. It was a neutral recommendation and a split vote of 2-1. There were some concerns. Again, I won't speak for those members specifically, but some concerns around, again, the length of time that it takes for these glasses to be secured or otherwise provided, concerns around, again, costs or quality of the eyeglass, and then I think also a general feeling that competition would be a positive thing and not a negative. So this is SB 340 by Eggman. Again, a bill that would authorize private providers for eyeglass benefits under the Medi-Cal program. Happy to take questions and comments from board members.
This is Member Garcia. So again, I was the one supporter in the Ledge-Reg committee on this. So, as a private practice optometrist that accepts Medi-Cal, and as a private practice optometrist that has worked in the prison optometry realm for over 20 years, I understand Medi-Cal on both sides. I understand it as a private practice doctor, and I understand it from a prison optometrist. And I can tell you that the program to provide PIA glasses is a very good program. And I don't think this bill in any way is proposing that we eliminate PIA optical services, because I think it's a valuable program. It helps inmates acquire a technical skill that it is usable when they are released. But and looking at the numbers of actually how many inmates use their ABO certification once they get released, it's very few, but it's still a very good program. We're just, I just feel that is important from an access to eye care issue here in California. Again, access to eye care, especially with Medi-Cal, is very, very poor. And the wait time for Medi-Cal PIA glasses is very, very long. It's much longer than in a private lab. So Medi-Cal glasses currently in our practice, in most, is 30 days or more. But when you bring in a pandemic or even a regular healthcare crisis with norovirus or flus, all those things can lead to lockdowns. Lockdowns can be for race riots. They can be for a lot of things. And when I worked in the prisons, there were many days I showed up to work and wasn't able to see patients because there was a lockdown. And those lockdowns affect PIA staff as well. So I just think the PIA system is good, but it's putting all of our eggs in one basket. And when there are issues, then the wait time becomes exorbitantly long. But even in the good times, like now, it's still 30 days. So that means 30 days without glasses. And if you can imagine a child without glasses for 30 plus days, That's a long time when those glasses can be made in offices or in private labs in a third of the time or less. I just think it makes sense to open it up and let the market take this where it goes. In terms of costs, I think the costs that were provided for private practices or private labs at $47 is not accurate. So in private practice, when we pay a lab to make glasses, it averages less than the 1982 that PIA says their glasses cost. So I don't think that the cost would go up, and I think we're not even proposing that the reimbursement is higher. I think we're proposing that the reimbursement is exactly the same. So the cost would not be higher if jobs went out to private labs. So I just think it makes sense. It increases access to care, reduces the turnaround time for glasses for those patients that are on Medi-Cal, which are the most vulnerable of the patients in our society. They cannot afford to go out and buy their glasses on the free market. So they are dependent on these Medi-Cal glasses, and they're waiting far too long. Thank you.
Executive Officer, do we have anyone from the PIA in the public comment queue? This is Member Mordomi.
I am looking at the attendee list, Member Mordomi, and I'm sure our moderator as well. I do think I see a hand raised from Ms. Kane, who's with the Cal PIA.
Okay. Well, before we go to public comment, then let me express my views. This is a hard one. I mean, one of the more fulfilling decisions I've made as a board member is hearing someone who has graduated or a formerly incarcerated person who has come out of prison for a very serious crime, murder, but has been rehabilitated and has been able to, through the prison program, learn to be an optician, and has come out and become a extremely productive and inspiring member of our society. I would hate to kill that opportunity for people like that. I think it overall serves a very positive benefit for our society. I was not ready to take a position on this bill. That's why I voted neutral. The PIA has data statewide that talks about how their turnaround time is 5.5 days. That's accumulation of statewide data. We can ask them questions when they speak as to the accuracy or inaccuracy of the data, but that's the data we have. I mean, we do have anecdotal information from very respectable optometrists saying it's longer and the defectiveness, but I'm very hesitant if I have kind of data or data that argues otherwise to make a decision that could kill the PIA program. Now, that's another issue. Will this how much will this debilitate the PIA program? But so given that uncertainty on my part, that's why I voted that voted to stay neutral on this.
Member Hancock, I just wanted to say through my 29 years in experience, I have to agree with everything that Dr. Garcia had to say. And I live right now I live and operate in a very rural area, and this system has been broken as long as I have known it. So I think from my experiences, it does much more harm than it does good. And I also agree the cost discrepancies, I mean, they're incredibly inflated. So I would be interested in maybe seeing more information on how they're coming up with those numbers, because in any realm, they just seem inaccurate to me.
Hey, Mark, this is Member Garcia again. So that, there are 13 million Californians on Medi-Cal. That's a lot. That's a lot of patients that are dependent on this system to work efficiently, to get their glasses in on time. So again, this is not designed to kill the Cal PIA program. And, you know, I think we should all support it in terms of what it's doing to help train, but those numbers are relatively small. And compared to 13 million Californians that are dependent on the Medi-Cal PIA for their glasses that are having to wait, again, much too long. And again, this is not designed to reduce or eliminate the program. And it's not designed to increase the cost to the state. In fact, I think we're proposing that the reimbursements are the same. So it should be more net neutral than anything else. But the benefit is that turnaround times for glasses will become normalized, and it helps the California economy as well if you're putting more jobs into private smaller businesses and labs in California. So I don't see any negatives. I know there are concerns, but I think the legislation that is being proposed alleviates a lot of those concerns to Cal PIA. Thank you.
Do any other board members have any comments or questions? If no one else has any other comments, can I get a motion?
As Member Garcia, I'd like to move to support SB 340.
Public comment?
I need a second.
Public comment? Comment?
I'm not sure who's saying public comment, but we don't have a second. We don't have a second yet. We have a motion, but no second. So we're not ready to move to public comment.
This is Member Ross. I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. So a motion with Dr. Garcia, a second from Dr. Ross. And now I will move to public comment. So I'm going to look for public comment from the meeting room. And I believe we have Christine Schultz from COA first.
Great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk today. I can't do a better job than Dr. Garcia did in explaining this issue and the problems associated with it. From our perspective, this is an equity issue. People on Medi-Cal should not have to wait 2, 3, 5 times as long for their eyeglasses as everybody else in the state of California. It's just not fair. When it comes to the cost, you know, we are working with the department to try to address those concerns. The Department of Health Services has the ability to set the rates, so they through regulation can reduce the rates to match the PIA rate. Also, we're looking at language in the bill that would potentially set it, say they don't have to set it any higher than the rate that the PIA pays. This is not about making money. This is about making sure people have access to care. Right now, if you look at the LA Times article, I think it was in your packet, there was a quote from the PIA that said in 2021, there was over 50% of these glasses were sent to outside labs. So the time that they were talking about, the 5 days, that's internal processing time. That's their internal time. That's not when they first get it, or not even when it's first sent, right? It's not even when they first get it. It's when their people start doing the fabricating of the lenses. So it's not shipping, it's not handling, it's not sending out to outside organization and shipping it back to them for, I mean, there is a lot of lag time in the time that we're looking at here. And, you know, we just feel like this is something that needs to be resolved. It needs to be resolved for California patients. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments from the meeting room?
Yes.
I think somebody's mic is on.
I know we have a public comment virtually. I think right now we're... Yeah, go ahead, David.
My apologies. This is the moderator. We've had Michelle Kane available because we thought that she was going to be asked for a testimony before comments.
Well, we'll just go to public comment now.
Yeah, I think we don't have any more comment in the room, so I think we can go to public comment online.
Right. We're going to begin with Michelle Kane, and then after that, we will take public comments in the order that they are received. Please type the word comment into the Q&A box or raise your hand by dialing *3 if you are a call-in user. Go ahead, Michelle Kane.
Good afternoon, board members. My apologies. That's why I was just trying to chime in because I wanted to make sure that you were able to hear just a little bit more information about our program. There's no reason for SB 340. We have system tracked time, and right now our turnaround rate for those glasses, average turnaround time is 4.4 days. It's 4 days. And that time frame represents the average amount of time it takes CalPI to process an order from the time it receives the order in its lab until it ships to the provider. And this is the only part of the full process that CalPI can control. It does not include the time that an order may be with an optometrist before it is sent to CalPIA, or the time it takes for an individual to actually collect their glasses. CalPI also has a contractual agreement that orders are shipped from its lab to the provider within 2 business days. Dr. Garcia, Dr. Hancock, my apologies if the lag time, but we are again averaging 4 days, and that is system track time. Our quality is less than 1% right now, so we well exceed the industry standard. We have had this relationship with DHCS partnership, 35 years with DHCS, providing Medi-Cal glasses. We also, it will incur a lot of cost to the state. Just in a year, 41.5, that's the 29.1 million, along with the 12.3 million that the state could incur in cost by keeping individuals in prison. We have great success rate within our program. We have 420 incarcerated individuals right now, men and women, that are in the optical lab, and we have great success. I get to talk to these guys outside. We have guys working at VSP. We have a lab manager for lens crafters. We have guys working at Sight for Sore Eyes, National Vision. So these are very well sought after jobs in prison, and
30 seconds.
It would be devastating for this program to go away. So again, when it comes to quality and turnaround times, we are top notch right now. Of course, with COVID, everything was delayed. I had glasses and they took forever to get to my glasses. So manufacturing was delayed all across the world. Remember, everybody was shut down. So we are, again, back to normal, and the guys take such pride in this program. So please, I mean, just come into our labs, come see the professional, it is real world experience for the incarcerated. And again, we opened up an optical lab at CCWF, the women's facility. And so that is now fully operating. So again, thank you for giving us our share of this meeting. So please take that into consideration.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Marder, are there any other comments from public comments?
Next, we have Ruby Garcia. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Lillian, it's Mark Mordomi. I may have questions for some of the speakers. You want me to hold off until all the speakers have spoken?
Not sure I understand your question. You have 2 minutes to speak if you wish.
No, this is Ruby. Can you hear me?
Hey, Ruby, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, Mark, let's please wait. Let's let public comment happen, and then if you have questions, you'll have an opportunity at that time.
Thank you.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead, Ruby. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. Just really quick, I wanted to say that there are other options going on in our state. As you know, we're opening up a lot of optician programs, so it'd be great. Anyone can come from anywhere. If they're coming from prison, if they're coming from any industry, there will be that opportunity for that extra training. Just wanted to add that we're not completely, I don't think we're completely closing opportunity for anyone, because we're there to help them.
Thank you, Ruby. Ms. Moderator, are there any other public comments?
There are no other requests for public comment at the moment.
So, Mark, do you want to ask your question? And
So my question is, so first I want to, this is what I heard, that the statistics that were provided to staff are based on, in terms of the timing, is based on when PIA gets the order from the optometrist until it is shipped. And it was represented by the PIA representative to be 4.5 days for that time period. And I want to make sure she confirms that. Also, second, I'd like to hear their analysis as to why they think PIA will be detrimentally affected if this bill passes. I guess that might be a reasonable position, but I want to hear about their math or their logical understanding and how it will affect those 420 participants in the program.
Mark, was that partially a question to me?
No, it was a question to the PIA representative.
Understood. Thank you.
This is the moderator. Bear with us just a moment. We're going to get Michelle Kane back on the line.
And then also, Ms. Moderator, if you could just turn off the time limit, please, for Ms. Kane.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kane, we're going to send you another request to unmute your microphone.
Hi there. Yes, this is in response to, I believe that, was that Dr. Morodomi?
He's not a doctor. Member Morodomi.
Mark,
See,
you are muted, by the way.
I apologize. All right. Well, Member Morodomi, yes, you make a good point, and your question was again. Can you repeat your question real quick?
I just want to confirm what I think what I think I heard, and that is the 4.5 days. That's from the time PIA gets the order from the optometrist until PIA puts the glasses into the mail or the delivery service. Is that correct?
Yes, the time frame represents the time it takes CalPI to process an order from the time it receives that order in its lab until it ships to the provider.
And the second question I had was...
And it's 4.4 days right now.
Thank you. And the second question I had is, how do you know this will detrimentally affect the 420 participants you have in the program, if the bill passes, I said?
Oh, this will. It will definitely. And, you know, right now, I mean, an average cost to house someone in prison is what, 120, it's 127,000. So we, you know, just to get somebody to have those job skills, to go on the outside, to work in real world experience, I mean, this would be huge. And I think what's going to happen is people are going to be like, well, let's not send it, you know, for prisoners to do the glasses. Let's do it other places. And that's going to hurt those job training programs. And again, these are rehabilitative job training programs. And these programs work. We have a 15% recidivism rate overall. And that means 85% of the men and women are staying out of prison and they have careers. They have successful jobs. So our programs work, and that's by a UC Irvine study that was recently done, 2021. Just go to our website, go to calpia.ca.gov, and all those reports, publications, all that is right there, you know, to see.
Do other states have prisoners making optical products? And if so, do those other states allow their Medicare or equivalent programs use the private sector as well?
Well, we've had the federal, they have been looking at our programs, and we just gave a tour at CSP Solano, and they were quite impressed with what they saw. So again, our programs are top notch. top-notch programs. And I invite all members, all of you, to come inside and see these optical labs for yourself and talk to the individuals in these programs.
So there are no other states that do have a program similar to PIA?
You know, I don't want to say no. There may be, but at least to my knowledge, I know the prison system, the federal prison system, was looking at mimicking what we have. I mean, they were looking at our optical lab and looking what they could do.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Wong, Ms. Kane. Ms. Kane, so I guess, why are you so definite or so sure that if SB 340 passes, that people will choose not to use the PIA system? Because you're saying right now that your turnaround time is 4 days. So,
well, I say don't give people the option, because we want to provide those job skills to rehabilitate prisoners. So yeah, I say we've had this long-standing partnership with DHCS for so many years, and the system does work.
no, I understand. I mean, and I agree, and I think it's a fantastic program. I'm just confused because you seem very definite or very sure that if the bill passes, that a significant number of places will choose not to use the PIA system, and I don't understand why.
Well, I would hope they would still choose us, but you know, at the same time, I think everybody that uses another optometry or another lab provider, you know, there's positions that will go to the wayside, that we wouldn't be able to have as many positions, job training positions. So, you know, I'm speaking for 420 incarcerated individuals that, of course, cannot speak for themselves right now. So I'm here. This program is such a great program, and I would hate for it to diminish or go away. Again, these are well sought off. I mean, when you're in prison, you want to work in an optical lab. You want to work in the dental lab. We partner with the American Board of Optometry. We partner with you guys for certifications. They can become opticians. We have techs. We have optical lab managers. They learn so many skills, which is so important. So, yeah, I think I feel like I'm mama bear about this program, and I would hate for this program to go away.
Thank you. Do any other board members have questions for Ms. Kane?
This is Member Garcia. So I respect all of that you're saying. And again, I don't oppose PIA. I think it's a wonderful program, but I think it's unreasonable to think that serving 13 million California Medi-Cal patients is somehow going to, and allowing the option is going to somehow decimate the program. I don't see that happening at all. I think that's doesn't make sense. If in fact your turnaround time is 4.4 days, then I would say none of us who accept Medi-Cal would move away from it because it was so efficient. But the reality is it's not 4.4 days. So I think that's where the rubber is going to hit the road. You know, once if this bill does pass, providers will have options. And if it is 4.4 days, I guarantee you no one's going to change. If it's not that and it's more like 30 days, then yeah, providers are going to have options. And I think that's a good thing because again, it's helping the 13 million Medi-Cal recipients that aren't getting the benefit that their private sector patients are experiencing. Thank you.
This is Member
any other-
Kawaguchi. So I have a broad question. So I feel like we as a board are getting hit with numbers, data. And so my question is, with the data numbers that were being presented, were any of them vetted with an outside source? Or are they all internal numbers that were being presented? So the 1.5 month versus the 4.4 days, is there any outside source that has given information about processing times?
Member Garcia, I believe COA did a survey in January. I'm not sure if Christine is still available. She may be able to provide the survey results.
Looks like Christine might be coming back up to make a comment. I'll just opine from the board staff perspective, Member Kawaguchi. We certainly didn't vet data that was presented to us with any outside, group or source. We've received data both from PIA. We've also solicited data that's otherwise publicly available from the legislature, but didn't otherwise third-party independently verify it.
Christine Schultz, representing the California Optometric Association. Just to answer the question, yes, we did do a survey. I don't have it in front of me. My memory is that over 40% of people had more than, it was 1 to 2 months, over 1 month basically. But in terms of the specific question on, data that's been verified by an outside source, it was just a survey of our members, and there was no external validation of that data. Thank you.
Do any other board members have a question for Ms. Kane?
Can we give Ms. Kane an opportunity to answer if there was any outside verification of her data?
Sure. Yes. Ms. Kane?
I believe this is data that we work with DHCS. This is the data that is it's system tracked data, is what I've been told. So, and the turnaround times, again, that survey that you have that that was back in January. So when I'm not sure when the survey was actually taken. Was the survey taken back in 2022, 2020? That was during COVID times, right? So we never exceeded over, I don't have the actual, during COVID, the most I think we went up to was, I believe it was 2 weeks, and then it brought right back down.
So I have, thank you for answering. I have one final comment.
Oh wait, one more thing, Glenn.
Yep, go ahead.
Christine Schultz is here to answer the question about when the survey was taken.
Yeah, sorry. This is again Christine Schultz with the California Optometric Association. Our survey, we've done several surveys. The most recent one, the data that I just provided, was from January of 2023, so this year. And my understanding is the data that's that the PIA is the data that they submit to the Department of Health Services. So I don't think it goes 2 ways. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Glenn. What was your last comment?
So I was just going to make a broad comment about Medicaid and Medi-Cal. So the consumers in California that are covered by Medi-Cal are already, in general, underserved. And it concerns me that there's access or a possible lack of access to treatment for those that need it. And I feel a little misguided by all the data because I don't know that the data is fully reliable from either party. But I do feel that there is an opportunity to be able to improve access, not just to treatment in the form of glasses, but also care as far as services for our Medi-Cal patients in California.
Dr. Garcia, do you have a comment?
No, I think I don't have any more to add. I think everyone understands where I'm coming from. And granted, I don't have a scientific study. I can only tell you what we experience and what other practices are experiencing in terms of the turnaround time. But I just Googled turnaround time. So in 2022, 171 providers were surveyed. 65% of respondents experienced wait times of 1 to 3 months for glasses ordered through Medi-Cal. In comparison, the survey found that the average turnaround time for glasses from private labs was less than 15 days. So again, historically, just again as a provider, this is not a new problem. It's been the same problem that we've experienced in practice of optometry since 1993 when I graduated, and probably before that. So it's not new. It's not just a COVID issue that does make it worse, but it's just an inherent inefficiency with the program. Having said that, the program is great, and I don't think anything that comes out of this bill is going to negatively impact the number of opticians that are trained through the program. There are 13 million Medi-Cal recipients in this state. That is a whole lot. That's more than we can currently handle already. Thank you.
Do any other board members have any other comments?
I have a question about the eyeglass business for the optometrists. Do the eyeglass manufacturers offer any kind of incentive to optometrists to place their orders with that company? So I guess my question is, well, if an eyeglass manufacturer gives an incentive to an optometrist to send the glasses order to them, would not an optometrist be inclined to send it to the private manufacturer to get those incentives or get their orders up, as opposed to sending it to the PIA? And therefore, would the private sector have kind of an unfair an advantage over the PIA in terms of getting orders?
Hi, Member Hancock. In my experience, it's opposite than that. The only incentives that a lab is going to give you is on the higher end products, which are products that are not covered under Medi-Cal. I've never seen an incentive program for base or what some might call core products. I know that I could, if paid $20, $19 and some change, I could provide a much higher quality pair of glasses to a Medi-Cal patient than I've ever seen come from the prison lab.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Are there any other comments from board members? Okay, so we have a motion. Motion is to support SB 340. Dr. Garcia, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, will do. Member Hancock?
Aye.
Member Kawaguchi?
Aye.
Member Morodomi?
Great discussion, everyone. I vote no.
Member Pruitt?
Aye.
Member Ross?
Aye.
Member Sims?
Aye.
Member Wong?
Aye.
Member Garcia, I vote aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Let's go ahead and go on to item number 7E.
Thank you, President Wong and members. 7E, SB 457, Menjivar Vision Care Consent by a Minor. This bill was amended in March of this year, and it is currently in the second house, meaning it is moved from the Senate. It is now in the Assembly. So this one is moving fairly quickly. Just a little bit of background on this one. Under existing law, minors may consent to various medical services without the authorization of their parents or guardians. Minors 15 years or older not living with their parent or guardian and who manage their own financial affairs are, under existing law, able to consent to medical and dental care. Because the law does not explicitly authorize these minors to consent to, quote, vision care, some independent minors are denied care unless parental consent is provided. So the reason for this bill is included in your packet. The author has identified specific challenge around homeless youth accessing vision care. Again, this bill serves to be a common sense measure, really, to apply what already exists for medical and dental care to vision care. The bill does provide a definition of vision care. That definition is, quote, the definition of vision care under the bill is to, quote, diagnosis, prevention, treatment, and management of disorders, diseases, and dysfunctions of the visual system, and the provision of habilitative and rehabilitative optometric services by an optometrist licensed in California. This definition is consistent with language in our Practice Act at Business and Professions Code Section 3041. I won't read it. I won't read that section to you since it's so similar. I just want to note, however, that there is no definition in the bill for medical care or dental care, yet this bill does provide one for vision care. So it is supported by and sponsored by the California Coalition for Youth and also supported by the Alliance for Children's Rights and the California Optometric Association. The committee recommendation for this bill was support, and it was a unanimous vote. Happy to entertain questions or comments from members on SB 457, Menjivar Vision Care Consent by a Minor.
No comments or questions from board members? Oh. All right, then I'd like to have a motion.
This is Member Ross. I'll motion that we support SB 457.
Member Sims, I second.
I'm now going to open up for public comment. Public comment in the meeting room. There's Christine Schultz.
Thank you, Christine Schultz, representing the California Optometric Association, in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the meeting room? Mr. Moderator, if you can open up the Q&A for public comment, please.
We are now accepting public comment via WebEx. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. And our first request comes from Kim Lewis. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
California Coalition for Youth. We are the sponsors of SB 457 and want to thank you for your consideration of taking a support position. I would note that there is actually a definition of medical and dental code. It's in a different part of the code, so it doesn't show up in this bill because it was a whole new section that we're adding this definition to be consistent with your scope of practice. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Ms. Moderator, are there any other public comments?
That was our only request at the moment.
Great, thank you. Dr. Garcia, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Will do. Member Hancock?
Aye.
Member Kawaguchi?
Aye.
Member Moridomi?
Aye.
Member Pruitt?
Aye.
Member Ross?
Aye.
Member Sims?
Aye.
Member Wong?
Aye.
And Member Garcia, I vote aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item number 7F.
We've arrived at our final legislative item for the day. This is SB 544 by Laird, Bagley Keene, Open Meeting Act, teleconferencing. We were fortunate enough to hear a little bit of an update on this bill earlier today from Mr. Brian Clifford at the DCA Exec Office update, but I will still endeavor to give you an update on this as well here. This bill was most recently amended on April 27th. It was set for a hearing just a few days ago in the Committee on Appropriations. Apologies that I don't have any updated information coming out of that committee on this one, but I think as we've learned and talked about with respect to SB 544, we are enjoying the fruits of current law, which enable us to meet virtually in a hybrid setting to conduct these meetings. That law, however, only authorizes that ability to meet virtually until July 1st of this year. This bill would authorize us and every other board who's been enjoying this hybrid environment to continue meeting in this way without having to notice or otherwise make publicly accessible those virtual locations. One item, however, that I did want to make mention of that I actually got wrong when I presented this to the Legislative Committee back in April is that this bill does not contain an urgency clause. So legislation that does not contain an urgency clause takes effect on January 1st of the new year, and this bill only, current law only authorizes the ability to meet in a hybrid way until July 1st of this year. So there's a potential 6-month gap where this proposed bill would not be helpful for the hybrid environment. So our committee recommendation was support because I believe we all want to continue to enjoy the flexibility another benefit by being able to meet virtually to our board has been some savings in terms of not having to pay for travel and things of that nature. So again, current law only authorizes us to meet in this way for about another month and a half, and this bill would not take effect until January 1st of the new year. So there could be a 6-month period there. Again, the committee recommendation was support. We could certainly entertain a support position today. An alternative motion could be support if amended, with the amendment being an urgency clause so that the bill would take effect upon signature of the governor. Overall, however, this is an important bill for this board and all boards to be able to have the option of meeting in a hybrid way. So a support position would be sufficient as well for our purposes. Happy to entertain any comments or questions from members on SB 544, Laird, Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act teleconferencing.
No comments from board members. Can I get a motion?
This is Member Ross. I'll motion that we support SB 544.
Can I get a second?
Member Kawaguchi, second.
Thank you. All right, I'm now going to open up for public comment in the meeting room. Are there any public comments from the meeting room? No comments from the meeting room. Mr. Moderator, if you can open up the Q&A for public comment.
We are now accepting public comment via WebEx. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Thank you. Dr. Garcia, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Will do. Member Hancock?
Aye.
Member Kawaguchi?
Aye.
Member Moridomi?
Aye.
Member Pruitt?
Aye.
Member Ross?
Aye.
Member Sims?
Aye.
Member Wong?
Aye.
And Member Garcia, I vote aye. Motion passes.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, now we're moving on to item number 8. Our last item before closed session, but it's kind of a big item.
Thank you, President Wong. Agenda item 8, discussion and possible action to initiate a rulemaking to amend Title 16 California Code of Regulations, sections 1524, 1399.260, 1399.261, and 1399.263 related to fees. In your packets, members, you have an extensive memo for agenda item 8, and I'm going to walk you through that now. At our August 2022 meeting, this board received detailed information from the DCA Budget Office regarding our fund condition. At that time, in August of last year, the board was facing a nearly $1 million structural imbalance in the current fiscal year ending July 1st, if we had fully expended our appropriation. We were informed at that meeting that the structural imbalance would likely grow and accelerate over time unless action was taken. At the December meeting, updated information regarding our budget was displayed, which showed that the projected imbalance had come down slightly to $850,000, and this was a combination. This result was realized, due to a combination of both reduced spending but also lower than previously projected revenues. At our most recent meeting in March, updated information presented at that time showed that the projected deficit through the end of this fiscal year had been further reduced to approximately $544,000. And again, this reduction occurred primarily because of salary savings realized by not filling vacant positions. the revenue projections remain consistent. As we heard earlier today from the budget office when they displayed their updated expenditure and fund condition statements, we are looking at a projected $515,000 structural deficit in the current fiscal year ending June 30. This would leave us with a fund balance of a little more than 7 months. The current projections do show that expenditures are continuing to outstrip our revenues, and this structural deficit is expected to deplete our fund by fiscal year 24-25, assuming the board fully expends its appropriation. In our memo that we put together, we've identified a few items that we believe are the cause for this structural deficit. The first item that we've included here is the budget change proposals that the board secured over the last couple fiscal years. We had 5 budget change proposals that increased our cost by about $1.4 million. Additional explanations or reasons for the structural deficit include failing to implement regulations and other programming, which would have brought in some additional revenue. And we've also, pursuant to our analysis, we believe that we've overprojected annual revenue going back at least a couple fiscal years. Together, those budget change proposals have grown our personnel expenditures by more than $600,000 over just the last 3 fiscal years. We believe that failing to implement regulations and overprojecting our revenue, that double whammy has essentially contributed to approximately $300,000 or more in unrealized revenues over the last 2 fiscal years. We will be working very closely with the budget office on revising these revenue estimates going forward. And I'm going to talk a little bit more here shortly about what we think the normalized revenues and expected expenditures will look like. As was just mentioned, though, however, part of this explanation is not just the growth in our expenditures from budget change proposals, but also mistakes that we've made by not implementing regulations and in our overprojections. So, as was also discussed earlier today, we are committed to getting back to doing that regulatory work, especially around 2 of those regulations which have a revenue component attached to them, and that is the mobile optometric office program regulations and the home resident permit regulations. We do believe that at the existing fee levels, and assuming that our future revenues continue to be collected at this current pace, that revenues of $2.5 million per year is likely a more accurate representation of where this board is today and where we should expect to be going forward under that revenue structure. Expenditures this year will be about $3.1 million. That's $600,000 higher than what we're bringing in, and that's the structural deficit that we've been talking about. The main tool that we have to control our expenditures is to hold vacant positions open. There are, however, other factors that contribute to our expenditures for which we have very little control, and those include any increases to salaries and benefits, and any costs that are incurred via the AG's office, for example. If the board was to fully expend its appropriation, this structural imbalance would just be larger than it is today, and the board would go and solve it in about 2 years. At the March meeting, the board directed staff to bring to this meeting proposed regulatory language that would increase all of those fees that are currently not at their statutory cap to that cap. This action is necessary, in addition to some of the other measures that I've mentioned, to begin to put this board on a more prudent fiscal path. We also need to continue to explore making efficiencies, and I talked a little bit earlier about some of the work that we've been doing there with respect to the OIO project improvement process. But I want to be very clear that the main tool that this board has, the main tool that I have to manage this fund condition problem at the moment, is to continue to hold vacant positions open. That's the only place where real salary savings are able to be achieved. And again, that is the reason why in August our structural deficit was nearly $1 million, and why today it's approximately half that. Again, that's because of salary savings achieved by holding positions open. Of course, however, you can only hold positions open if that's not jeopardizing your consumer protection mandate. And so this is a constant balance that must be examined and achieved, because the moment our mission is being jeopardized, we need to start filling those positions. Given the length of time it can take for a regulatory action to be implemented, today's action is the most prudent step that we can take to put this board on a sustainable fiscal path. A little bit of information about when fees were last adjusted. Optometrist license fees have only been raised twice in the last 30 years. The last increase occurred in 2009. The application fee and the biennial renewal fee have been in place for 14 years. These two fees represent a significant portion of the board's revenues, representing almost 2/3 of our overall total revenue. Optician fees have been raised somewhat more recently, with the last increase occurring 6 years ago in 2017. The current application fee has remained in place since the board assumed that program at that time. There's a few other fees that we are putting on the table with this item today, and those are the continuing education course approval fee, which has also remained at its present level since it was instituted back in 2008. And then a few of the other more ancillary fees have also similarly not been adjusted since they were implemented. The analysis that we have for you here today shows that if all of these fees were raised to their statutory cap, the approximate revenue we would be bringing in would be just under $600,000, $597,000 to be specific. If you're tracking along, that's about what our structural deficit is. So that action by itself is not enough to put the board's fund condition on a fiscally sound path. And it's certainly not enough to begin to be building a prudent fund condition and a reserve. So we would also need to work subsequent to this action to begin pursuing a fee study, which would inform what a more sustainable fiscal structure would look like for this board. In producing this analysis and this memo, board staff completed desk audits, and we've included as an attachment, I believe it's attachment 3 in this item, some information regarding the outcome of those audits, which showed that the actual cost to process all of our optometrist renewal, glaucoma, lacrimal, continuing education course fees, and all of the optician applications, registrations, and renewal fees exceeds the current fee that we are charging, as well as exceeds the current statutory maximum. You can find this information in the, again, attachment 3 list of proposed fee changes. The action today, if approved, would lead to staff working with our DCA Regulatory Council to begin the rulemaking package materials for submission to the Office of Administrative Law. Regulations take generally longer than a year to complete, and we would be targeting an effective date of July 1 of 2024. There are several attachments related to this item that we put together. Attachment 1 and attachment 2 are the actual text that is being proposed to be adjusted and raised to its cap. Attachment 3, as I just alluded to, is a chart or a list, if you will, that displays both the current fee charge, the maximum fee in statute, and the proposed increase, as well as the actual cost to process pursuant to the desk audit. And then the two final attachments, attachments 4 and attachment 5, I'd like to call your attention to. Attachment 4 and 5 are both fund conditions, but they show you different things. Attachment 4 is a fund condition including the fiscal month 9 projections, which we received and discussed earlier today via the budget office item. But if you look at the highlighted green on this item, what we are endeavoring to show here is what we're assuming is that what we call the baseline reset, and this is that 2.5 million in normalized revenues. So this is as things are and as things are expected to continue in terms of the revenue number. And you can see that we are projected to go negative in 2024-25 and have 2.7 months in reserve. Again, with the assumption that we are fully expending our fund condition. The second attachment, or I should say attachment 5, the next attachment, is an attachment that includes the baseline reset, or that normalized 2.5 million in revenue, as well as this proposal. So if you can see that purple highlight in attachment 5, we are showing the additional revenues that we would expect to come in under this proposal with all of the fees at the statutory maximum with an effective date of July 1 of next year. And you can see that, as I mentioned in my narrative, the action that we are proposing to take today to raise fees to their statutory cap does not put us on a long-term fiscally sustainable path, assuming we fully expend our expenditures, as we would still go negative in the exact same fiscal year 24-25. We would just be slightly less negative. So again, today's action is necessary and a prudent step to begin to put this fund on a fiscally sustainable path, but we will need to pursue a fee study on its heels to better inform what a more longer-term sustainable fiscal structure looks like. That is my presentation for item 8. I'm happy to entertain questions from members. We have included our action requested, and we've included 2 different options for a possible motion related to this item. So again, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or comments from the board.
Greg, this is Member Moridomi. Do we have budget staff also ready to answer questions?
Member Moridomi, I apologize. You're going to have to speak up for me and repeat that.
Oh, sorry. I have some questions, but some of them may be better answered by budgetary staff. Are they online too?
I don't know if I see them physically in the room, but why don't you go ahead and ask them, and I'll see how I'm able to answer them.
Okay. Well, all right. So excellent presentation and excellent report. Thank you very much. You've made things very clear. So you talk about overprojection of some fees. Who does those projections for us?
We did.
We did.
We made the mistake. This was a staff error.
Okay.
We made the projections. We made the projections. We gave the information to the budget office.
Okay.
I can show you. So, for example, the projection that we made it's a simple explanation. If you can recall, item 6CI, our examination and licensing stats. The very first chart that we showed on that item included our licensee population and included our both current active delinquents. My analysis as to how we overprojected was that we included in our numbers that we gave to the budget office delinquent folks in that number of folks that we expected to be renewing. Mm-hmm. So those were folks that did not renew and were not renewing. So we accidentally gave a number that was a little artificially inflated, and that number gets used in calculations to build projections. So part of the reason why we think the 2.5 is more normalized is because we're using more accurate numbers today.
Okay. All right. So who checks those numbers after we come up with them? Well, I hope somebody's checking these numbers in the future, because we can't afford to make these kinds of errors.
Member Moridomi, the way this works is these numbers come from us. So the mistakes that happen fall on the leadership of this board who was there at the time.
Okay. All right. And how do we avoid making these kinds of errors? Because as a board member, I have no way of checking the numbers that staff provide.
You need to rely on staff, and the commitment that I'm giving you and all of the members of the board is that is one of honesty and forthrightness. I think I'm demonstrating that right now by being very open and honest about the mistakes that we made.
Yeah.
We won't make these mistakes again. We have to give accurate numbers so that the budget office can make accurate projections.
I'm not saying someone has done anything evil, but people make mistakes. And so you can be as transparent as you want, but you can still make a mistake. So someone needs to, someone needs to check the numbers. I'm not going to dwell on that. I just want to, since this is my last board meeting, I just want to do kind of prompt board members to make sure that numbers that are given by the staff have been checked by somebody. This is a economics 101 kind of question. It seems like unlike a business, the board has no control over its expenses, in that as labor costs go up, our costs go up. And this board has no ability to negotiate how much it pays its employees, right? They just go up based on statewide contracts, et cetera. Mm-hmm. The only thing we can do is increase our fees on occasion, but it seems like our fees are really not tied in any way to our labor costs. We just need to kind of chase the car. The dog chases the car, in that the costs go up and we have to, like, every few years increase our fees, or go to the legislature and say, please increase our fees. Is that right?
Generally speaking, I would not say that our only tool is to raise fees, though, because I think that one of the reasons why we're having this conversation today is because of self-inflicted wounds that we made. We did not need to grow via 5 BCPs our personnel expenditures so fast, so quick, while at the same time not bringing in additional revenue by implementing statutory mandates. So I don't think fees is the only question here. I think we are in the place we are in now of needing fees partially because of actions that we've already taken. But going forward, some of this can be mitigated by making sure that we have more accurate numbers, for example, by making sure we're implementing things, for example. So fees is not and should not be the only tool that we have.
Right. Well, that's a fair answer. Right? The point of my question is we don't have control of our expenses, but you've kind of put an additional kind of gloss on that. So thank you. And this is more for our budget folks. What should this board be doing now, and what should we be doing in the next 6 months? And this question is based on the criticism from the budget office a few meetings ago, saying that, oh, you guys are not doing enough. And I want to put them on record as to telling us what they think we should be doing at this juncture. So if they're on the line someplace, I'd like to hear an answer.
I do not know if they are on the line at the moment, and I know you are asking that question to them and not me specifically, but I will tell you I am doing exactly what they are recommending I do.
Okay. Are they recommending anything else?
Well, again, I think what I'm trying to provide information on is, again, this is not just about fees. The answer to this problem is not just raising fees, not either in this action that we're contemplating today or in any future action around a fee study. While those things are necessary, there are lots of other things that we need to be doing, and we are doing them. So one of the things that I'm doing is examining the org chart, and in that context of growing our org chart so large with 5 BCPs and all of these extra positions, as I mentioned, that contributed a lot to our problems, to our fiscal problems. Do we need all of that growth, right? So this is not just a question of fees. This is also a question of constantly looking at and examining the processes that we do. Are there ways to make things more efficient? I've tried to give some information in today's meeting related to several of those items that we're presently working on. Those items are important to do anyways, because we should be constantly examining how we do business and endeavoring to do business better and perform a higher and a more effective level of customer service for our applicants and consumers. So they all go hand in
Greg,
hand.
you're doing
So,
great. You're doing great. You don't have to defend. You don't have to defend your work. I just want to make sure I get budget on the record saying what they think we should do, and not have them come back next year saying, "Oh, well, things are horrible, and oh, you should have done this last year." You know.
So
I want them. I want them on the record as to what they think we should be doing, and not telling us after it's too late.
Member Mordomi, I can certainly bring them back, I guess, at a future meeting. I don't intend to belabor the point, but I think at either the March meeting or the December meeting, this question was also asked, and the budget office answered it affirmatively with the statement that we're doing exactly what we should be doing. I think that the budget office would have preferred.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
They said that. I just want to make sure I hear it over and over again from them, because
I can keep telling you,
trust is
the budget office would have probably preferred that we be having these conversations at the May meeting in 2022.
Yeah.
So we are here now doing the work that they have been attempting to see be done. It's my job, staff's job at this board to bring this to the board, and so that's what we're doing now. I wish it would have happened sooner, when our fund condition was even in an even better spot. But we're here now and have an opportunity now to begin to set this board on a fiscally good path.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, this is Member Garcia. Member Garcia. So yeah, Greg, I mean, you walked into this current fiscal situation, and you've given us real tools and direction to get us out. But I think it's very clear that it's been 14 years since our last fee increase. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, what in our economy has stayed the same price in 14 years? Nothing. And labor costs have gone up, particularly in the last 5 years. So, this is not rocket science. You don't have to be an economist to figure out, what went wrong. Past boards, our current board, should have taken action sooner, and we should have done a fee study sooner, and we wouldn't be in this situation. I think it's clear what we need to do. I think we're beating a dead horse at this point, and that's my comment.
Yes, Member Kawaguchi. So I have some comments to make. So I'm gonna talk past, present, future, just to kind of keep my thoughts clear. So past, there's not just been one opportunity where a potential miss happened. We did a very large study, and it took us more than 2 years when the optician program merged into optometry. And at that time, we were told over and over again that the optician program was going to be self-sufficient with changes that we were going to make. And so this kind of goes back to Mark's question is, what are we going to do rolling forward as a board to ensure that the data that we're given, information that we're given is actually correct? Because I'm going to throw in a wrench to our present situation, which is what happens if this current analysis is actually not fully correct? So we were told for several years that our program was solvent and there was no need to do fee study. And now for the last year, we're being told that it's not. So I just want to make sure that sweeping decisions that we choose to make that affect the registrants and licensees in California are fair, that they make sense, and that we don't end up with regret. So specifically speaking to some of the proposed changes, I do think that we need to look at all three solutions that we have. I don't think that we can wait around to start finding somebody that's going to support a bill for us to get some statutory changes to our fee structure. Um, I do think that with the study, we need to figure out if there's some vacant positions that we don't intend to fill, so we can get some finalization to that. And then finally, I'm not sure that I can fully support sweeping changes from a regulatory standpoint to raise all fees to their maximum. I'm not sure that that's fully fair. Um, Specifically talking about CLD and SLD initial application fees being currently at $75 and over doubling them, it's just unheard of, to be honest. So those are the two that I'd want this board to consider. Is I understand that we have to make some sweeping increases, but I think that we need to be mindful of those people out there that are SLDs and CLDs. And for consumer protection, we would want more registrants, SLD, CLDs, than less. And my fear is if we do raise their fees, their initial licensing fees, registration fees up to the maximum statutory limits, we are going to see a mass exodus of SLDs and CLDs in California.
Member Kawaguchi, I'd like to chime in and address a few points. First of all, I fully agree and would associate my comments with what you just mentioned, with what you just concluded with about the importance of being sensitive to impacts and how this might unfold in the licensing populations, what that might mean and what that might look like for those impacts, right, and the future pipeline of opticians. That's something that we're very cognizant of. We're thinking about that, and it's something that is important to consider as we move forward on this. A couple other things to mention, and I should have probably made you all aware of this. If you look at attachment 2 in the, which is the attachment that includes language to raise the fees for the optician side, it does appear that we are raising a fee from $75 to $200. That's not actually true, and it's a little confusing, and I'll try to explain this. So existing reg language, which is what we're looking at here in attachment 2 with the strikeout and the underline that shows that we would be raising a fee from $75 to $200, is actually outdated reg language. This reg language predates when the RDO program came from the Med Board to our board. And when that program came over in 2017, 2018, statute at that time actually set a fee higher than $75. So we're not actually raising fees up from 75 to say 300 or 200, although it kind of appears that way in the reg language. We are using our authority under the statute to increase these fees up to their cap, but I just want to call your attention and everyone's attention to the fact that the actual current fee that opticians are being charged, you can find in attachment 3. And so you will see that no optician is paying $75 today. So I just wanted to mention that. And again, apologies that there's not really a easy way to display that. The last thing I just wanted to make mention of is about, I think this question, if you will, about equity and about what is a sustainable fee structure, and you made comments about when the opticians were coming over that they wouldn't be, they'd be self-sustaining and things of that sort. One of the reasons why we need to do a fee study is precisely because we haven't done one since they came over, and so it's now been 6 or 7 years since that happened, and it's a perfect and ripe opportunity to make that study and examination to see exactly where things are today. Is there any subsidizing happening between the two programs? A fee study would be necessary to determine that, and also to determine what a more longer-term sustainable path would look like for fees. So I just wanted to touch on those items that you also hit on.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from board members? Do we want to discuss raising? Do we want a motion to raise all fees right now?
If there's no further comments or questions from members, we are asking for a motion on this. Staff would ask for option 1 in your packet, and so would certainly welcome a motion and a possible second at this time if there's no further questions or discussion from members.
This is Member Garcia. I'll make a motion to support discussion and possible action to initiate rulemaking to amend Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Sections 1524, 1399.260, 1399.261, and 1399.263 relating to fees.
Can I get a second?
Member Pruitt, I second.
Thank you. Okay, I'm now going to take public comment from the
This is Member Mordomi. That is option 1 in the staff's recommendation. Is that correct?
Yeah, my motion is for option 1 in the staff recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Okay, I'm going to take the motion made by Dr. Garcia and seconded by Dr. Pruitt, and I'm going to take for public comment in the meeting room. There is no comment in the meeting room. Mr. Moderator, if we could have open up Q&A and have public comment, please.
We are now accepting public comment via WebEx. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment in the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take about 15 seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, please. Thank you. Sorry, Dr. Garcia, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Will do. Member Hancock? Member Hancock?
Sorry, aye.
Member Kawaguchi?
Aye.
Member Moridomi?
Aye.
Member Pruitt?
Aye.
Member Ross?
Aye.
Member Sims?
Aye.
Member Wong?
Aye.
And Member Garcia, I vote aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to item number 9, which is closed session. Oh, no, I'm sorry, future agenda items. So do any board members have any items topics that they would like to put on for future agenda items?
This is Member Mordomi. Since this is my last meeting, I won't suggest anything. I just want to thank all my fellow board members, particularly ones I've served a long time with, Dr. Wong, Dr. Kawaguchi, Dr. Garcia. Yes, in particular, because I've served many years with all of you, and I've been so enriched by your wisdom in all these meetings. So thank you very much.
Mark, I'll just say I will miss you at our meetings. Dr. Kawaguchi, did you want to say anything? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask if any of our board members who are leaving earlier, if they wanted to make a statement or say anything. So I'll open that up.
Actually, I have a future agenda item too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's been an honor to serve the consumers of California and I thank the staff for all their hard work over the years. Without them, we wouldn't be getting anything done. And then to my fellow board members, it's been truly an honor and a learning experience to work with all of you over the years. So thank you for that. My future agenda item is I would want to make sure that we continue the topic of CE audits connected with making the process potentially simpler um, as it relates to potentially looking at OE tracker.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any future agenda items?
This is Member Ross. I also don't have any future agenda items, but also would like to thank everybody for the opportunity to work together over the past year. For me, it's been a relatively short stint on the board, but I've really enjoyed the opportunity to do this. I'm actually going to be moving out of the state, so I'll still practice optometry, but I'll likely still look for more ways to be involved in leadership within the profession. So again, my hat's off to our executive officer, the staff here at the state board. You guys do a wonderful job, a lot of hard work that certainly doesn't go unrecognized, so very appreciative of that. My last comment was going to be if there are any other optometrists who happen to be on the call still, I would really encourage anybody else who's ever thought about getting involved in a leadership position like this to just kind of take the leap and do it. It's a commitment that I certainly have not regretted. It's been a really wonderful experience. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Member Ross. And all of our departing members,
Member Hancock.
we will miss you. Go ahead, Member
Oh,
Hancock.
sorry. I just wanted to say as well, it's been such an honor to be able to serve. And although it was short, it was a really excellent way to end my career as I retire. And I'm in awe of the amount of work and knowledge required of the staff in the board. And it's been really enlightening for me, and I've enjoyed seeing everybody work and really enjoyed my time. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, all of you. You all are going to be very missed. So I'm now going to open up public comment in the meeting room for any future agenda items. There is no public comment in the meeting room. Ms. Moderator, if you can open up the Q&A for public comment.
We are now accepting future suggestions or suggestions for a future agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, please type the word comment into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send that comment to all participants. Dial-in users, please dial *3 to raise your hand. And we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take about 15 seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay. So that is it for item number 9. We are now going to move to closed session. Just as a reminder, we will go to closed session and then we will come back to open session to adjourn.
I just want to check with council. Is that the correct order? Will we adjourn from closed session or will we come back from closed session and then adjourn?
We can go either way. We can also adjourn directly from closed session, Dr. Wong, if you want to let the.
Yeah, let's go ahead and then just adjourn from closed session. That'll be easier on staff, right? Okay. All right. So I think at this point now, all board members have to stay on our WebEx, and then everybody else is going to be locked out for our closed session. So board members don't go anywhere.
Righty, this is the moderator. If I could get someone in our panelist list to help me identify who shouldn't be here anymore. John, is that you?
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone in our panelist list who needs to go?
You should take Greg Pruden off.
Alrighty. Anyone else?
Randy
web-
Love.
I assume the webcaster as well? Can someone confirm that if I move Bryce, that we're not going to lose his closing slide?
I'm not able to speak to that. Is Bryce available?
All right.
Yes.
I think that. So, besides myself, everyone in the attendees list, everyone in the participants list is supposed to be here, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to enable what WebEx calls the practice session. When that happens, everyone in the panelist list will be included. Everyone in the attendees list will be excluded. And Brian, I see you have a hand up.
Sure people aren't getting into closed session, it shouldn't be.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
I just wanted to make sure that I was going to get booted properly.
You are an attendee. You will be excluded. You will see a black screen momentarily.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get this show on the road.